joining us today for episode 12 of the Survive and Thrive Challenge. I'm Laura Brandao, the president of AFR, and I would like to introduce you all to my wonderful challengers. From Michigan, we have Vieaux, the president of FinLocker. From Florida, we have Melinda Payan, the president of Truth About Lending. And from Minnesota, we have Ferris, the broker owner of Propel Home Loans. For those first timers that may be joining us, I want to let you all know why we're here and what we look to provide. On the first weekend of the quarantine, my good friend Seppi, the CEO of Tego, reached out to me with a little bit of a panic as she was 2 weeks away from a product launch when her entire team was sent home to work remotely. Well, she was calling me to kind of get a calm, positive outlook when I said, "Oh, Seppi, you have no idea what's happening in the mortgage business right now." I said, "I honestly can't calm you down because I have the same anxiety." And at that moment, she said, "Hey, this might be an opportunity for us to add a third person, go live on Facebook and share some of our thoughts." And from that moment, the Survive and Thrive Challenge was born. And here we are on week number 12. So let's get started to hear from all of you. Brian, tell us that very first moment as shelter in place is coming in, has all these different things are hitting you at that moment professionally and personally. Tell us all, what was your reaction? What was going on in your world?
So I think the reaction was, yes, I got out of lending just in time.
Good planning, Brian.
Actually, I would say it was mixed emotions. I spent 27 years in mortgage lending as my entire, professional life up until leaving to go to this startup fintech last summer. And so all of my, professional friends, some of my nearest and dearest friends are still in that side of the business. So there's been this kind of guilt and at the same time, relief of not being into it. But yeah, that first week was very interesting for us at FinLocker. We're a very small startup. We have 30 or so employees, and we're a young company with the exception of myself. And so our company is based in St. Louis. We're constantly building out enhancements to our platform. We run on a 2-week agile cycle. And so the culture of the company is used to be, putting eyeballs on each other and collaborating and working through things. And we in Missouri, they were a little bit behind the rest of the country in terms of the outbreak. But nonetheless, there was starting to be concern with, what's going to happen here. And so we had a management meeting, and it was like a Tuesday night or something. And we said, we need to see if we can even work remote. We didn't know if we could. And so we literally told our team that afternoon, the next day was a mandatory work from home day. And we said, if this goes well, then you'll get further instructions on what's next. Come back in, get all your equipment, blah, 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 blah. Well, that next day in the afternoon, the governor of Missouri did put a stay-at-home order in place. And so, for us, we had that 1-day practice. It worked out great. We were right in the middle of our build cycle. Our release went in the next week. It was flawless. And, we learned a lot about ourselves as managers, as employees. And what I'm proudest to say is that we have not missed a beat in terms of productivity. I think it's been really cool to watch our team. They actually figured out how to collaborate even more than they did when they were all face to face. So it's been a pretty cool thing to watch the growth there. And then on the personal side, our daughter lives in Seattle, so there's always kind of that concern. And of course, Seattle was the hot spot, first hot spot in the country. So, and she had made a job move about a month before and was in the restaurant business and moved and got into. She loves animals, so she works in a veterinary clinic now. But luckily, she got out because her restaurant owner, who owns 11 restaurants in Seattle, closed down, and they haven't opened since. So, it's when you said 12 weeks, I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, it's unbelievable. Yeah, it's crazy.
It is. And so tell me about that initial, okay, you send everybody home, you have a young team, so they were used to coming together, collaborating in person. Did you already have the tools in place to allow them, like are you using Teams or Slack or, things like that to get them to collaborate?
Yeah, so we're a big Microsoft shop, so
Mhm.
we're on Teams, uh, and so yeah, we quickly figured out how to all the normal cadence of stuff that we had. We have a morning stand up every morning.
Yep.
There's an ops call right after that. All that stuff is still going on. It's just now happening on Teams, and then like I said, the level of collaboration. It's actually like our product team and our developers. They're working hand in hand, and we're finding that there's more clarity now in what the product team is delivering to the developers in terms of the work instructions. And I think it's because they have to be really thoughtful
Right.
writing it out. And so it's turned out that we're actually, I think, producing a better quality output, given the fact that we have to be a little bit more intentional with our communication.
Oh, that's a very good point. And what about from the team perspective? How did all them get used to just the anxiety of what was happening outside of work? Like, was that smooth sailing, or how did that go?
I think it was pretty smooth. We've been blessed that we haven't had any of our team members directly
Wow,
impacted
you're lucky.
by COVID, so that's been great. We so about 2 weeks into the work from home order, I had we kind of have a bunch of sister companies that are owned in a similar investment fund as ours, and one of them produces employee surveys, and they produced a survey specifically to ask employees for their thoughts on COVID, and so we sent the survey to our small team and got like 80% of them completed it, and we got the results back. And what was cool is the survey asked a lot of questions, really trying to get to the point of, are you communicating enough, and are you communicating the right things at the right time to your team? And our results came back, and we were kind of surprised, but they were really positive, that we were kind of perfect in terms of the cadence of communication, what we were saying, how we were saying it. Empathy was there.
Yeah.
But there was another side of the survey that asked, it was kind of poking at the personal feelings of
well-being,
the employee. Right. And there definitely was this kind of concept of anxiousness over the unknown. And so we were able to take that feedback and understanding and be a little bit more purposeful in our workings and communications with our team. And I think it's, in a lot of ways, crisis is a make or break for a lot of companies. And for our little company, I think it's been a great learning experience. We never would have chosen to go through this, of course, but we've learned a lot about ourselves, and I think we'll be a better company and a better collaborative culture because of this.
Very interesting. Awesome. Wonderful. Good stuff. All right, Melinda, tell us. I know what was going on in your world, but describe it. Explain that, beginning of March, the craziness. How did it affect you professionally and personally?
So our state was one of the last states to put a stay-at-home order. We were way down the line. In fact, we didn't really have one in March. It wasn't until maybe the end of March, beginning of April. I can't remember exactly, but when we chose to have everybody come work from home, we were not under a stay order. It was just more of a voluntary prevention type of situation because of everything that was going on around us. And we decided, I would say, I think it was like the third week in March where we decided to go and everybody work remotely, maybe a little bit earlier, sometime around the middle of March. And at that point, for the loan, we have about 10 loan officers.
Wow.
And they have always, for the most part, most of them have always worked remotely. So that wasn't really a big change for them. Occasionally they would come in and sit with one of the processors or production managers or whoever. But we really only had maybe 1 or 2 loan officers that consistently came into the office. So it wasn't really a difficult transition to have everybody work remotely. I can tell you that I've been really, really impressed with my team. I'm just so thrilled to death with their level of professionalism, and if anything, they're working too much. Like, I'm getting emails at, after hours, and I have to say to them, I really don't have to work at 7 a.m. I was bored. I'm like, but you don't.
I rolled out of bed. I had nothing else to do.
So, but from the perspective of like what I was thinking in my mind, it's so different how people view things. Like, we were so significantly affected in 2008 when the crash happened. And I've been a broker, 100% a broker, since 96. So really, really long time. And I have rode all of those waves up and down with our industry. And, people in the industry, especially the newer people in the industry, I think were like really freaking out about, oh my God. And I was thinking to myself, this is nothing. Yeah. Like, I was thinking, what? No non-QM? Okay.
Oh, well, like, little comeback.
Hey, there's a conventional lender still loaning. Thank you, God. That's right. So even though, of course, it was aggravating and upsetting, and yes, we all lost deals, and there was all kinds of problems and upset clients, and all that was very aggravating and upsetting. Yes, I guess my perspective is so much different because obviously, back then you would wake up and you would have to tell the client, I'm so sorry, but not only do you not have a loan, there's no bank to give you the loan. So I just think it was a little bit different of a perspective.
100%. I mean, listen, I think I've said it almost every week during these calls that I'm so impressed with our industry. I've never, just like you, Melinda, I've been doing it, and Brian, we probably have all been doing it a similar amount of time. And I have never seen us do better than during this time. Everybody coming together, everybody collaborating, putting aside, forget competition or anything else. I mean, I tell this story of that week as we're about to go into quarantine. I remember Anthony getting all of the wholesale lenders, that are part of AIM. We all got on a call at 8 o'clock at night and we all compared notes. We literally said, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? And I can tell you that I know for me, it was a sense of relief. It was a sense of relief that we were all in the same boat and we all had the same concerns and we all said, united, we'll get through this together. And it's just one thing after another. How do you handle the appraisals? How do you handle the verifications? How do you handle the closings? And look at now. Now, Les and I were saying the other night, we're never going to go back to the old way. The things that we're learning right now, it's for the better, most of this stuff. So it's really, to Brian's point, crisis either brings you together or rips you apart. We came together very well as an industry, which is incredible. Melinda, how about from a personal side? How did that?
Yeah. So as you can kind of see, I'm kind of stuck in this room with all kinds of stuff that we put aside to fit me in this room. We've got 4 kids. Got a dog. It's not easy. And they're not little. I mean, my youngest is 13, but they're still, hey mom, can you help me with this assignment? And it's really been a challenge from that perspective. But, for many years I had either this mortgage company or another mortgage company, and I was working from home up until maybe about 7 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago. And for years, I worked at home when they were really, really little, and there was 4 of them. Wow. And I don't know how we had a mortgage company and survived with all of them at home, but I was just very relieved to have an office and to be out of the house and to really flourish and to build up the company and all that. So it was really weird coming back to the house after so many years of being gone from the house to get used to okay, because I'm kind of a person that if something has to get done, I do it immediately. So it was really difficult for me to focus walking past the kitchen, knowing
Right.
that something's not done.
Ignore it. Do not look over there.
No, that's okay. The dishes will be done sometime in our lifetime. So it's, that's kind of been my challenge personally. And I'm also not really the best on tech, to be honest with you. And I think I shared with you about my microphone problem that I have. And, you know, we're on, so many people are either using Zoom or GoToMeeting or Microsoft Teams. And apparently there's something in, I don't know if it's in Norton or something into the computer, but there was a setting in privacy, which you would never think to look for microphone settings in privacy. And apparently it shut off my mic. So for the last 3 months, up until like 2 weeks ago, I could not figure out how to get my mic working.
But see, now she's got it. She's got it covered.
All these Zoom meetings on my phone or trying to plug in a headset. It's been a nightmare. So yeah.
But Melinda, you figured it out. You figured it out. You're on this Facebook Live right now. You're part of it. So give yourself a lot of credit.
Yay.
You are tech savvy. It's all good. It's all good. Awesome. All right, Les, tell us about that moment. I'm just going to let you start with, what happened in February, because I love this part. So tell us, okay, quarantine, shelter in place, lots of change. What's happening in your world?
Yeah, so it all, well, thanks for having us. It all came at us really fast. I made the decision in February to launch a mortgage brokerage after spending 10 years in the business on both the broker and retail side. We had been planning it since the fall before, since September. We were ready to go. February 10th, we were live. And for the first 3 weeks, I thought I was brilliant. I mean, the business was just, I wasn't, I was dealing with past clients and refis, and we had broker rates. So some of the things I couldn't do in the retail world, I could now do. And then the second week of March hit, and it became a reality that COVID wasn't going to go away, but also you remember the market was so unstable. Rates were all over the place. And I suddenly felt like the dumbest person in the room, and personally was petrified because I had, walked away from my retail career and put everything into this small brokerage. And I was really proud to have an office. So like Melinda, I was like, I've got this office and I just set it up and I just bought the chairs. And we were suddenly loading everything back into the car. And I was telling the team, there's three of us. It was, I don't know when we're going to come back here, so take your stuff home. It was a plethora of emotions. One thing that I'm really proud of is when we were sitting down planning the company, we wanted it to be tech savvy and easy to use and virtually integrated. And so we've gotten to test all of that.
Oh,
that's great.
That's great. So there's three of you. So you go remote, and I'm assuming you were already prepared for that. Like you were prepared for everybody to work remote, and you already had the systems in place to do that. You just had to implement it, I guess, or test it out.
Yeah, we did. I mean, when I was thinking about the company, one of the things that I didn't like in previous roles was there was always a pain point. It might be the application. It might be the way information flowed from the application to the LOS. It might be how documents are stored. So I was able to kind of plan that out and look for vendors that would help facilitate that process, not knowing that we were going to need it to the level we need it, right? Just thinking about user experience. And all of a sudden it was like, I looked at my team and I'm like, I literally had a conversation with my assistant and said, I will pay you as long as I can pay you.
Oh, wow.
I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if we're going to be able to get these loans done. Because like, as Melinda said, guidelines were changing and rates were changing. And I didn't know if we'd close them all or not.
Well, and even to my point, when I was saying that we jumped on that call, I think we all said, are we going to get appraisals? Are we going to be able to close these things? Like what's going to happen, right? I mean, I think we were all, what's going to happen? No one's recording, right? All the offices are closed. All the government offices are closed. What's going to happen, right? And those were those first couple of weeks, those were the questions. You had no idea. So yeah, to your point, you're right. A lot of roller coaster emotions happening. How about personally, Les, in the midst of all this craziness of a new business, what's happening there too?
Yeah, other than like everybody, I mean, of course I'm stuck at home and that's getting a little bit old. Melinda, I don't know. I've talked to a lot of clients and people who have children, and I'm going crazy with animals. So for those of you that have been working at home, homeschooling your kids, kudos to all of you because you're amazing. I think the biggest personal challenge is a work-life balance. Literally, it's too easy. I'm bored. So I'll just go down to the computer. I'll just go to the kitchen to the computer. And I've had to make a personal, I'm trying to think of the right word, but agreement that I'm going to turn it off and try to re-engage in a walk or doing other things, because otherwise I could just sit here all day and all night.
Yeah, I've been doing that.
Melinda, you said the same thing, right? With your team.
Working nonstop. So
yeah.
I've been really, really bad at that. I've been working 20, 19-hour days nonstop because I don't know, I guess there's a part of me that feels like it is the time to work your ass off. And yes, I think everybody has to, but in Les's, to Les's point, there's gotta be a balance. And I have not had any good balance at all. That's definitely been an issue just because we're so busy. And I'm just like, well, what else, where else am I going to go? What else am I going to do?
Right.
I haven't watched TV since 1997, so might as well just work.
Well, you also went through the mortgage collapse when there was no outlet for loans. And so, we have a saying, right? In sales, make hay when the sun is shining. So here we are, and the sun is shining, right?
So there's probably a part of me that's like, oh, wait a minute, I better do everything I can right now, because in 2008, and some of people who are listening may know my story or may have heard my story or not, but in 2008, we had our third child was really, really sick with a life-threatening condition. And during the entire collapse, we were going through leukemia testing for our son, who luckily, by the grace of God, ended up having a temporary suppression of his immune system. But we didn't know that at first. So we spent 3 years in chemotherapy playrooms at children's hospitals from the time he was 4 months old until the time he was almost 3, all at the time when a prior mortgage company that I had was going under because nobody was lending. Florida was one of the worst hit market, had many investment properties. We were like, the first people to do short sales. We ended up having to do personal bankruptcy because of everything and the medical bills for our son. And during that time, when everything, we had to let employees go that had been with us for years, that were like family members, everything, it was as bad as you can get, because even I had never paid myself a W-2 salary, so I couldn't get unemployment. There was just so many bad things that was happening. And of course, I tried to save a sinking ship at that time and took all my savings to try to save the sinking ship. And then I had a ship that sunk and no savings. Right. And so it was during that time that you really realize what's important to you when your son doesn't need chemotherapy. And, other parents here around, unfortunately, they don't have the same type of luck of the draw, and we were so blessed to be going. Now I look at it like it's a blessing, but back then it was a total nightmare.
Of course.
If I had not been going through what we went through back then, I wouldn't have the perspective to be able to have helped so many people after we got through it, because I really took that perspective of, that we were put in that situation to not focus on what was happening financially, and just to be so grateful to God that we had a roof over our head and food on our table, even though it was not, we were renting a house and it was very small and the 6 of us were stuck in there. But so from the perspective of the work-life balance type of situation, what I can tell you is that I probably have some PTSD from that time period. Right. That's like, you better work your ass off.
It's almost like people that went through the Depression, back then, and they always said they could, they had to almost hoard things because they were always worried that could be the last piece of meat, or that could be the last. It's almost the same thing, right? So you went through that very traumatic situation. And so it's like, hey, I'm going to take advantage of this, which of course we're helping lots of families. So that's a beautiful thing. And we should, but you do have to shut it off at some point. You have to have some kind of separation. Okay, so now we went through the initial, now here we are 12 weeks later. we've all learned things. So now I want to know, Brian, what have you learned from this experience that you're like, hey, I'm going to keep doing it. This is better, professionally, personally. What have you learned that you're like, we're not going back. This is moving forward. We're going to do this based on what we learned.
So, I think there's a couple things and they're both tied together. So I spent, I'd say on average, gosh, I don't even know how many nights in hotels I would spend in a year, but I can't think of a time in the last 25 years where I've gone 12 weeks without getting on an airplane. And so, and that was frankly for me, as I'm principally responsible for our business development efforts here at the company, my biggest fear going into this was, how are we going to get out and get in front of prospects and do what we're, do our demos and all that. And so, honestly, I'm having more success doing the demos that I'm doing now and the engagement now than I did before. And I think there's a lot to it. I've been purposefully having to really build the flow of the presentation and tweaking it because I have time to do it now. So there's the professional side of it of not getting out and traveling. I think, frankly, I can't wait to get on a plane. I'm ready to go somewhere like right now, but I don't see.
Vegas is open, Brian. I've heard that today.
Taking me with you.
Before this, if we had a call come in and it was a decent opportunity, I would get on a plane in 2 days and go do a meeting, fly across the country for one meeting.
Wow.
I don't think I'll do that again. I think we've proven out that, and it's not just us at our company, it's everyone's proven out that there's a different way to go about doing business. And frankly, I suspect that a lot of companies and people are going to be like, no, you don't have to come here. If I like what you're doing, we're going to do business together. So there's that aspect of it. And then the other side, this directly correlates with it, 20 plus years of just insane travel. And when you are traveling insanely and you're traveling for business development, you're eating out and enjoying cocktails and all the other stuff that goes with it. And so I've definitely been very mindful now of what I'm taking in, and I'm getting older too, so I got to be mindful of that. So I think just generally I have a better sense of health through this 12-week period, and it's something I think I'll stick with and try to stay disciplined even when we do get back on the road at some point.
That's awesome. That's great. So that's wonderful. And I think you're right. I think we're all learning how to do business in other ways. So I do believe we are going to get on planes, we're going to travel, and we're going to go to conferences and all that. But I think you're right. I don't think it's going to be as vast as it was at once. All right, Melinda, what have you learned and what are you going to keep doing?
What have I learned? Well, what I've learned is that I really have instilled amazing values in my kids. And I also have had some really good leadership roles with my staff. And I can see that now more than ever because the quality of work and the dedication of my staff, of which perhaps before I would have been afraid to say, okay, work from home. Now I totally feel comfortable with, hey, if they want to work from home, if they don't want to work from home, they go above and beyond. And I really am so proud of them and how they've performed. I really am. Also my kids have really shown me how independent. The younger two have, the older two have already moved out, but the younger two have really showed me how independent that they can be with their studies. And I was really like a proud mom moment to see that. And as far as stuff that I'll probably continue to do, a lot of these tech, the meetings, the Zoom and the GoToMeeting and all these, I know that a lot of them have been around for a long time, but I really didn't have the need for them as much, obviously, before this whole situation. So it's really made me a lot more tech savvy with learning on, how to interact with these various platforms. And that's something that we'll continue to use in different ways.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. All right, Les, what did you learn and what are you going to keep doing going forward?
Yeah, I learned a couple key things, and Melinda touched on it, but gratitude. I mean, I'm so grateful that business has come in and my past clients have been loyal. My realtor partners have been loyal. And, I think it's a testament to what my team has done over the years. After, I think I shared with you guys the other night, after COVID, then we had George Floyd, who was murdered here in the streets of Minneapolis. Our office is, 9 blocks from all of that.
Wow.
So we were going to go back on June 1st. We've just postponed right now, but there's been a lot of turmoil, and we can get through it, right? Be grateful, do your best. And, the team, the thing that we've been talking about a lot is connection, trust. How do you build connection and trust if you can't be in front of someone? Because like Brian was saying, we used to just think we got to be in front of them. We got to be there. We got to shake the hand. We got to go out to dinner. We got to have, So we've been trying to talk about what does it look, feel, and smell like to our client? How do they want to interact with us, and how can we interact with them? And then I've also learned that cats and dogs make terrible assistants. Absolutely atrocious. I have asked them to do so many things and don't comply.
They just completely ignored you, right, Len?
Failures across the board. They are all on PIPs. No regard.
I think it's a management problem.
Yes, there you go, Brian.
It always
Brian
comes from the top down,
recognized it.
doesn't it, Brian? Yes, true.
That's right. All right. Well, this has been amazing. Now it is time to hear who's actually going to be with us next week in episode 13. So please share with everyone your nominees.
All right.
Wait, where'd Brian go? All right, Brian, who do we have?
Let's see. I'm going to nominate my good friend, longtime friend, PJ Harrigan.
Awesome. Welcome, PJ. All right, Melinda.
I am going to nominate Andrew Kanasawa. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your last name right, Andrew, but I'm going to nominate Andrew. And I've actually met him through this whole AIM membership, and the interactions that I've had with him, I've just really felt that he's a really good quality person, and he shares, I think, a lot of the same feelings and sentiments that I have about really caring for your clients and going above and beyond. So I can see that with him, and I love to hear from him.
Awesome. Well, we can't wait to hear from Andrew. And Les, who do we have?
Yeah, so I'm nominating Brittany Malacca. She's an ops manager at Paradise Mortgage, and I am excited to hear how you run an ops team remotely.
Yes,
What does
absolutely.
that look
Brittany is awesome. Can't wait to hear from her. Well, thank you so much, guys. You did an amazing job. It was truly wonderful hearing. We wish you all the best in the days to come. Be well, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.